2014, a decade ago, 10 years ago.
So strange.
And I was looking at our list, and this is probably the movie subreddit movie list. If they were to create a list, most of these movies would be on that list.
Yeah.
And
I tried to sabotage it, but it did not.
You weren't going to sabotage
You
it.
you tried your darndest, I'll tell you that.
But before we get into the list, let's talk about some honorable mentions because as we noticed making these lists, actually a low-key kind of great year for movies.
Really good year.
So we have obviously Edge of Tomorrow,
Yes.
which some people know as Live, Die, Repeat.
Or Edge of Tomorrow - Live, Die, Repeat.
Yes,
Yeah.
whatever they've decided to call it these days. The Tom Cruise Groundhog Day movie.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it before.
Yes.
So
It rules.
we're all fans.
Yeah.
But speaking of the movie subreddit, Fury, which, you know, perhaps one of the greatest World War II movies that is just in a singular location.
It's like a bubble episode, but with tanks.
The Lego Movie,
Love that movie
Which is-
so much.
really good. Also, 22 Jump Street,
Yep.
made by the
That
same
was
dudes.
very high on my list. I love that movie so much.
Big year for Lord and Miller.
What We Do in the Shadows also almost
Yeah.
made the list.
Quality
Very
film.
elevated horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some would say the most scariest of the horror movies that came out this
Yeah,
year.
and they're literally elevated because they float.
Yeah.
I'm just really still waiting. I mean, I don't think it would be good anymore, but I'm still waiting for werewolves.
The
you know?
werewolves, yeah. And then Selma obviously came out, and David Oyelowo burst onto the
exploded.
scene. Yeah.
In an interesting biopic that like kind of everyone was like, oh, well, you're gonna do the speech, and they're like,
No,
no,
Nah.
we don't do the speech.
no, we don't. Do
And now he's playing Bass Reeves.
yeah, he is.
Number 10, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which
Yes.
JD informed me is the third one.
No, it's
Oh,
the
my
second
Second
one.
one.
You thought it was the
second
third one.
I thought it was the
You
third
said,
one.
oh man, it's not the second one. I go, no, it is the second one.
Anyways, it's the second one,
It's the second
which
one.
is
The best one.
the best one.
Yeah.
It has the climactic fight at the end,
Yeah.
apes together strong,
Yes.
and it's just, it's a piece de resistance.
It's the third one is really great.
Yes.
But if we were gonna put one, I think I talked about this in 2011. If we're gonna put one on there, it's gonna be Dawn, because I think it kind of sums up what I loved about the movies is this battle between like humanity
Mhm.
and really that like it really dips into that. Besides that, it looks incredible.
Yes.
And Matt Reeves jumps on. This is when Matt Reeves joins.
Mhm.
It looks insane. The CGI is just mind blowing. I love Planet of the Apes, but this is maybe like after the original, the best one.
And this was the first like CG performance, like face scan thing where people were like, they should be nominated for Oscars.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first one they were like, oh, this is
Yeah.
actually, and then the second one was like him and Andy Serkis and Steve Zahn were just like,
Well, Steve Zahn's the third one.
oh my god.
Oh no.
See, I don't. But Steve Zahn's great in the.
Steve Zahn is incredible in War of the Planet of the Apes. No, but like this is, but yes, yeah, Serkis and Kebbell and everyone else who's involved. Like Judy Greer is in this movie.
Now we go to a complete different spectrum
Yeah.
of big blockbusters. Well, we didn't know it'd be a blockbuster, but now it is. Number 9, we have John Wick.
Oh man.
Keanu, when he made this movie, was basically, everyone thought his career was kind of over. He does middling, like 47 Ronin and a bunch of other stuff.
47 Ronin.
But then he does John Wick, and it's a massive hit, but it's a slow hit. It's like the first week, no one really watched the second week, but then it obviously got on streaming, and people were like,
This is
we love this thing.
It changed action movies for like the next decade because every single movie it's still doing it because The Beekeeper came out this year and everyone's like, it's like Jason Statham's John Wick.
The Beekeeper came out last week.
What did I say last year?
No, but I'm saying like you said this year. And
last
it
week.
legit came out like 4 days ago.
It came out in 2014, but it doesn't even feel like a 2014 movie. It doesn't. Like you can watch it today and be like, oh, did this come out 2022?
Yeah, it's one of those weird timeless. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the world building.
Yeah.
That's
probably
like, and
it,
that was my
honestly.
favorite. I remember at the time, like the action is incredible, but this world building is I love it. Like the idea of like the hotel and like the coin, like everything was so cool, and I'm like, I just want so much more of this. they kind of lean more into the action a little bit more. But
yeah,
I mean, and what a cast! I mean, you forget Willem Dafoe was in the first one, and
that's right.
And John Leguizamo's in there,
Yeah.
and so good.
And was it true that it was gonna be a straight to DVD movie, and then like some producer
I'm sure it was,
late in it was like, nah, let's try it.
Number 8, we have The Rover, which is probably the least watched out of all these.
No idea what it is.
It's post-apocalyptic.
Guy Pearce. Right?
Guy Pearce, Robert Pattinson, a couple other people. David Micode. I don't know. I can't remember how you say his last name, but hopefully that's right. Anyways, it's set in Australia, so it gives you. So you think it's gonna, and it's one of A24's early attempts at movie making. They bought it. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, it's like you think it's gonna be Mad Max because it's Australia, but it's just like the most filthiest, grimiest movie you've ever seen. There's like a huge car crash in it. Robert Pattinson's character is just, I mean, it's like his Good Time character, only he's not as insane in Good Time. He just makes a lot of dumb decisions, and Guy Pearce's character has to deal with that. And there's like these roaming caravans.
And yeah, this is like Pattinson is really
he's trying to break the Twilight Edge off a little bit. So he's choosing. Well, he does like Cosmopolis, and he does the Rover and everything like that. So it's just really great because the performances are great. I wouldn't say it's like it's not going to be your favorite movie, but I wanted to put it on the list because I just want people to go watch some of Robert Pattinson's like catalog because this dude has made some crazy movies.
Ouch.
Number 7, we're combining 2 movies because JD wants to talk about elevator horror and he does not want to forget about The Babadook.
Yes.
But also It Follows.
Yep. So whatever you want to call it, elevated horror, A24 horror, whatever.
Pinky out horror.
Like this is the year that it kind of like really starts to become mainstream. I think it's always kind of been there, but like this is the year. So you have It Follows, which is one of my maybe like favorite horror films of all time. So weird, so vibey, and such a cool premise. And the way it's done is really interesting as well. Like it's not like in your face all the time, but it does have those fun jump scares. Have you seen It Follows?
I haven't.
You have?
I have not. I haven't seen The Babadook either.
How have you not seen It Follows?
You would. Oh, dude, you would. I mean, I know you're not into horror, but and then you have The Babadook, which is, I would say, probably a better movie than It Follows.
Yeah.
Maybe not as entertaining to some, but this movie, one of your parents will like mess you up, but also you're just like The Babadook may be the scariest thing I've ever seen like on camera. It is so terrifying.
Also a queer icon on.
Yes. So Jennifer Kent directs it, and also Australia, right? Like and it's like this kid who like this book shows up out of nowhere, and it's about the Babadook, and really it becomes a story about grief and parenting, and it's just also this scary creature in a top hat that like climbs on the walls.
But yeah, we don't want to spoil either of those.
No.
So just go watch them because the greatest thing about horror is not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like imagine us as kids going in watching Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's how.
Yeah. That's how It Follows and Babadook is.
Both movies like legit. Just I like watch it with someone else though too because it's like
it's always fun to watch horror with other people.
It freaks you out too.
Kind of a horror movie. Number 6, Gone Girl.
Oh, yes.
This is like what if a relationship was bad from both sides, but also taken to the extreme.
What if a husband and wife did not like each other, and one of them said, I'm going to Gone Girl you.
Yeah, and then she said Gone Girl.
Yeah.
What I love about movies and books is when it starts in the same place and ends in the same place.
It is.
But there's something has changed in between.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. And Rosamund Pike's performance in this.
So good.
I already knew she was great before Gone Girl.
Because of Jack Reacher.
Yes, because of Jack Reacher.
Oh, and because of James Bond.
Yeah, she was Bond girl, that's right. Yeah.
That's where I was going, yeah. But anyways, she just crushes it. And Ben Affleck, of course, plays great as a supporting role.
Yeah.
Some would say he's the lead actor, but I think he's more supporting to her than
and at a time, it really like it was kind of a perfect role for like him with like paparazzi and the things he had just gone through. Incredible performances for everybody. I mean, Tyler Perry.
Yeah, Tyler Perry.
Oh, that's right. Tyler Perry's
maybe the best Tyler Perry role ever. And then You have
Neil Patrick Harris.
Is it and then Carrie Coon, like her first movie, and a couple other people.
And it's Fincher being Fincher
and
as well.
It's Fincher.
Very cold and blue.
This is not my favorite Fincher movie. I would maybe even say it's kind of further back on the list.
I think it's middle for me.
But I can't say I read the book. I listened to the audiobook. I don't want to.
I think that counts these days.
As a read. Okay, so I read the book then. So he said it. I read the book, and I do think the book. If you did read the book, it kind of does take the wind out of it a little bit, but still really great. Boyd Holbrook's in this movie too. I kind of always feel he's in it, and Scoot McNairy.
Yeah, that's
Scoot McNairy.
Shot in Missouri.
Anyways, it's shot in Missouri, I guess. Like I don't know why we're shouting out Missouri, but
Zach
okay.
just knows where every single, Zach knows where every single movie has been filmed.
It's a great movie.
Number 5, we have Whiplash, which is Damien Chazelle's first feature, and it's a whiplash.
It sure is.
Quite is.
It's shot for shot of like the scene when he throws the chair. That's the short film that he was like, I can make a movie, give me money, and it worked. He got J.K. Simmons again. It made his career again. Like he has like a second wave, and then Damien Chazelle, his debut is like, I mean, it's huge. Like I mean that dude is making swings now, but back then it was like, who is this guy? Like, he's making this intense movie about a freaking drummer.
The memes are everywhere.
Yeah.
So people have probably seen the rushing or dragging scene, but they've not seen what happens after that scene.
Nope.
And I think it's like, if you have only seen the memes of Whiplash, you have to just go watch the movie. And while the beginning is sort of slow, it's intentionally slow. And whether you like the beginning or not, by the end, you're going to be like, what did I just watch?
Yeah. Like you're gonna be sweating.
It is the most. I always tell people this it was the most nerve-wracking, like non-nerve-wracking movie.
Yeah.
Like I was on the edge of my seat at the end, and you're like, in retrospect, you're like, you're on the edge of your seat for a concert.
Exactly. It's a weird movie to pitch,
but it's incredible. It's an incredible obsession movie.
I remember I did a double feature of this with American Sniper. I did American Sniper first. I know. And at the end of Whiplash,
what a Whiplash!
Yes, I was like, at the end of Whiplash, why was I like on the edge of my seat over a drummer than a freaking what? Like a sniper? What?
Yeah,
it's great. Great movie. Watch
Probably the best Miles Teller performance we'll ever get.
Yeah. Number 4, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, which just ended. The trilogy just ended. Yeah. When this first burst onto the scene, this was Marvel's first test of like, can this be successful?
Yeah.
And it was. And it was crazy how successful it was.
Especially with James Gunn being attached. That's the part that blew my mind.
That's the part that blew your mind, and not that, hey...
Well, it is kind of mind-blowing because he never made a hit at all, ever.
And he was started on Troma, then wrote Dawn of the Dead and Scooby-Doo, and then made Slither and Super.
I think he also wrote Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters on Leash.
He did make Scooby-Doo 2.
Well,
I love James Gunn. His career fascinates me, and this was like a giant, like, let's give this guy a blank check. What can he make?
Yeah.
And it made this.
I mean, it's wild that he did, but then also when you have to, because we think about that, but when you think about a general audience, and you're like, yeah, you know, like they had Captain America and they had the Avengers. This is just 2 years after the Avengers, and they had the Avengers. Now this is a story about a guy and some aliens. One's a raccoon that shoots guns. One's a tree.
And it's the guy from Parks and Rec.
Right. It's the guy from Parks and Rec. Vin Diesel is a voice.
And
Bradley Cooper is also a voice.
It's the lady from Avatar whose face you don't even see.
And and Batista in his like maybe first humongous role.
Yes,
you know,
I
remember when people were like, I don't know about this. This is gonna be weird. And then it just you're right. It just showed up and stuck around, and everyone had the soundtrack.
I was gonna say that too. Yeah.
It was different enough that like that's what they needed, and I feel like that's what they kind of need again.
It's a cultural moment.
Yeah,
like not many movies can be a cultural moment, and Guardians of the Galaxy is.
Yeah.
I mean, when people think of 2014, they're probably one of their first movies they're going to think of is this movie.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, we have Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. This movie breaks you.
Yeah.
It breaks you and remolds you. Zach doesn't really like it, but having watched it again as a father, it breaks you as a parent.
I don't have that. So.
And I was already, I went to the theater and was like bawling.
Yeah.
The scene where Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway come back, I was a wreck.
That is a very good scene.
Before I had a kid.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again and I couldn't even finish the movie. I was like, that's too much for me. This is like, I think, Nolan's first attempt at breaking his own style.
Yeah.
It's still very much his style, but it's not the type of movie you think he's going to make.
No.
It's very theoretical. It's very emotional, which was
is unusual for
a lot of criticism against Nolan is his movies aren't emotional. He actually has compelling female characters, which another criticism of his. Murph is probably one of the greatest, like, didn't see that character coming at all.
Yeah. Like, it's just, there's just things that you forget about until you watch it again. They're like, yeah, this movie does just...
I think if you haven't rewatched it recently, Zach, you might go back and you might actually...
I love the scene whenever he's watching the videos. It's whenever the climax of the movie, it lost me completely.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
It gets so heady.
But
it's just like Tenet, where I'm like, I give up. I give up.
I just think that you have to let it go. Like, you have to realize that, like, this is his way. Because honestly, you don't know. Have you ever been in a black hole?
I haven't been in a black hole.
It could be a giant library of memories.
It's where I'm like, what is going on?
We go to the fourth dimension.
We don't know. Okay, love could be
in a black hole.
Yeah, that love could be what saves us, and you put love into a spaceship, and then you're good.
Yeah. Speaking of magnetic performance, we got number 2, Nightcrawler, which Jake Gyllenhaal should have won the Oscar.
He should have been nominated, and he should have won.
But that's when I say the movie subreddit, this is what all the people on the subreddit think. This is not a controversial opinion whatsoever. No. But Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo,
Riz Ahmed,
just incredible performances, an incredible movie. But also we may be biased because we work in the business.
We did start, Michael and I did start our jobs here. Maybe like, this comes out in the fall. Mm-hmm. We were like, this movie came out as we were like starting jobs here. Yeah. And so we were like, oh yeah, this news.
And stringers were still sort of a thing. They're not really.
Bill Paxton.
Yeah, Bill Paxton, yeah.
It's kind of grimy, but like kind of clean at the same time. It's just like, it has like a sheen to it. And it just feels like nighttime LA, you know? Yes. And it just, that, and then Gyllenhaal just being so slimy and gross. But also you're like, do I like this guy a little bit? Do I admire his ambition?
Which is the problem with narcissists, because you can really get hypnotized by like their charm and charisma, but then all of a sudden they're gaslighting you and you've given them a job and they filmed a murder.
Yeah. and then like moved it around,
Number 1, you're not going to expect this one. But
I wasn't.
I think me and Zach put it very highly on our list. Is Wes Anderson's Grand Budapest Hotel.
Right.
Which, you know, some people will argue is his most Wes Anderson movie.
And his best.
But some people do not like it.
Really?
People don't like this?
Yeah. There are. There's a lot of Wes Anderson haters out there now. Which, I get it. Yeah. It is not a movie for everyone. But Grand Budapest Hotel is just so whimsical and great.
That's why I think it's his most approachable one. Yeah. Besides Isle of Dogs, just because it's so whimsical.
Isle of Dogs is not approachable.
Really?
I do not.
It's claymation dogs.
I think that this is really that kind of like the last, up until recently, the last great Anderson. And then he gets a little too weird and a little too out there and a little too maybe into himself. Mm-hmm. And then now he's back.
Ralph Fiennes is very funny. Yeah. This is just it's like a warm blanket of a movie. It's funny. Yeah. It's fast paced. It's cute. Very Wes Anderson-y.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of. It's just fun. I think the story is also that's what makes it great. Is that like whether you like the kind of symmetrical stuff or what whether that's not you, the cutesy not like the story is really great. So you can like if you don't like that stuff and you haven't seen it, you can kind of like keep that aside and just know like and the story brings you along.
Anyways, that's our list.
Hey, can't stay at home, can't stay at school.
No, you gotta go somewhere. But not here. Get out of here.